Hi, my name is Deana Watson. I'm a MAPS coach and your KW military community leader, and this is my KW story.
Welcome everybody, and today we're going to be talking to Deana Watson, MAPS coach and your KW military community leader. So Deana, we're here today to talk about your KW journey, how you ended up in Keller Williams, what it's looked like for you to take that journey to agent, team owner, MAPS coach, and ultimately where you are today, which is our KW military community leader. So take us off and tell us, how did you end up at Keller Williams and when was that?
Back in 2011, I was, it was probably started back in 2010. The end of 2010, I purchased a home, and my real estate agent, I was actually out of my last semester of college and in this in-between semester before I wanted to go to law school. So I was studying to take my LSAT exam, happened to buy a home. My real estate agent, who is now one of my best friends and really like family to me, she said, you'd be good at this. You should give it a shot. What are you going to lose? You got 6 months before you go into law school. Just give it a shot. So fast forward 2 months later, I enrolled in real estate school, passed my real estate exam in March of 2011, joined KW that same month, and the rest is kind of history from there.
What brought you to Keller Williams? Was it the agent on the other side of it, or was there something in particular that drew you to KW?
Well, so the part that brought me to Keller Williams initially was her, right? So she was at Keller Williams and she said, I think you should come check this out. And up until that point, I had never been in an environment that was outwardly encouraging. Like my mom and my family was encouraging, just in general, but to have people high-fiving each other and hugging each other and sharing. And at first I was a little freaked out, to be honest. I'm like, what in the world is this place? And I went in with her for a few times and realized that it was just a really awesome, healthy environment. So what originally drew me to Keller Williams was that. And part of my KW story is that I left Keller Williams for a little while and thought the grass was greener, and it wasn't. So why I stay is an entirely different reason than why I originally came. But why I originally came was really the culture of the office that I started in.
Awesome. So you started 2011, brand new agent, and you said at some point you left. So what happened to get to that point, and when did that take place?
Yeah, so I was at Keller Williams for about a year and a half. At the end of my first year, I was doing pretty well. And I decided I wanted to join a team. And really the reason for that was because I wanted to be more consistent. And so I knew that I could learn so much on my own, but for me, it was always about how quickly I could get to the next place. What happened from there was I met my husband and we were dating. Originally, we met in 2012 and he moved a month later to Colorado. So I spent about 6 months, maybe a little longer than that, going back and forth once every couple of weeks to Colorado Springs. And we dated long distance for a very long time. And eventually I just said, screw it, I'm moving to Colorado. So when we moved to Colorado, the market center there that I went to wasn't exactly the same feel as the one I left. And so I thought the grass might be greener and I went to a different company.
All right. So what happened next? So you went to this other company. How long were you there?
About 9 months.
What caused you to leave?
We actually moved. So I was on a team at that company, great team. I still talk to her to this day, and she's now at Keller Williams. So that's interesting because she wasn't at the time. And I think she's now part owner of a market center in Colorado Springs, which is phenomenal. But anyway, we left because we moved. So my husband got selected for the Special Forces School. And so we moved to North Carolina about 9 months after we got there. Well, after I got there. So that's kind of that I would say that the story was I joined KW and lived happily ever after, but that's not exactly what happened. I came back to Keller Williams for a short period of time. I knew we were going to be leaving in about 18 months. And I had another brokerage because in my first year in Fayetteville, I sold almost 50 properties by myself within 9 months. And so, of course, I went to the top of the charts there and I started having brokerages throw money at my feet to join. And in a lapse of judgment, to be honest, I took a sign-on bonus and 100% commission for 12 months because I thought we were going to be leaving, and come to find out we weren't leaving. So I quickly after that ran out, went back to KW because I realized that all of that considered, that's not where I wanted to be. And so I came back to Keller Williams for the last time in 2015 in January.
So what did your production look like in that next couple of years? So you came back to KW January 2015. After 2 lapses in judgment, we will forgive you forever on there because you're back now permanently. What did your production and what did your business begin to look like at that point in time?
When I wasn't at Keller Williams, I sold 48 properties that calendar year. The next year, from 2015, we started a team. We went to, I think, 83 or 85. I can't remember without having it pulled up. I hired my first buyer's agent. I hired a couple of assistants, and I started the journey of honestly failing forward very, very quickly, and for a very long time, actually, at the concept of building a team. So the next year, which would be probably 2016, we hit 120 units. And then my mom actually passed away that year. I lost it a little bit. We actually moved away from Fayetteville and moved back to Tennessee, where we started. And the year after that, we went down to 83. But to be honest, I think that's the year after you and I started working together, Liz. And it was blown up on purpose because I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I had the biggest ego in the room. I wasn't actually pouring into people. At that time, it was about what they could do for me and what rooms they could get me in. And so after my mom passed away and I got a lot more perspective on life in general at a very young age, I realized that none of that was worth it. And so I walked in one day and I said, you're either going to make me happy or you're going to make me money and you're going to be in culture or you're not going to be here. And I hated myself in the moment of saying that because I knew that it was going to disrupt a lot of people's lives. And yet it became the beginning to the catalyst that created a really great cultural fit of a team that we still have today.
So you kept the team in Fayetteville when you moved to Tennessee, and that's where you had that kind of fundamental shift on why and how you were building your business.
Yeah, so we moved back to Tennessee in 2016, I believe. I'm trying to remember. It's so many back and forth. It's either 2015 or 2016. So at this point, I had started in Tennessee, gotten licensed in Colorado, gotten licensed in North Carolina, and now I was back in Tennessee. And within 6 months, my mom had passed away. And so really what happened that started it was me understanding that there was more to life than the car I was driving, than the house I was living in, than the metrics that were on the wall. And I started to understand that I wasn't put here to have people get me into the room. I was put here to help them get into the right rooms. And when I did that, it's kind of launched the rest of the story from there.
So what did it look like to begin running a team from a completely different city, right? And have some major life experiences during that, right? Those are definitely challenges, right? Your mother passing away, you would move to a brand new city. Sounds like the third city in about 5 years at that point. So military spouse, obviously, you move a lot. What did you learn running the team from a distance?
Well, to be quite honest with you, the first thing I learned was that the reason the team was staying together was my physical presence, and that I actually hadn't built the foundation of a team at all, which can sound egotistical, but it really wasn't. I thought I had this great thing, and the people were great, don't get me wrong, but when I stepped out and my brute force and ignorance stepped out of the picture, there wasn't anything foundationally solid for us to land on. And so that was really the wake up call of, you didn't build a team, you just rallied a lot of people to get excited about you and they sold real estate with you. And those were two entirely different things. And they still are to this day. We've done it differently because I've gone back to Fayetteville and left again at this point. So fast forward to where I'm sitting today in 2023, I've already gone back and come back to Tennessee again. But that first go around, that was the biggest realization I had, was that just because you call yourself a team doesn't mean you operate as one, and it doesn't mean you've built anything that's sustainable. That was my biggest failure.
Hard lessons to learn. And you're still here and you're doing pretty well. So it looks like the fail forward and fail fast worked out for you. So what happens next? You've moved to Tennessee, you're running your team, you've come to these realizations and you've done some shifting around on the priorities of the business. What's going on next? Where's your next part of your journey?
So kind of what happens next, I ended up getting pregnant and having a baby right after my mom died. My husband deployed overseas to combat zones 3 times in that 3-year period that we were back in Tennessee. Because once we came back, we were only here for 3 years, and then we went back to North Carolina again. On the team side of things, what happened was we really slowed things down. And it was the first time I actually realized why I was building a business in the first place. And that will be the catalyst to where I am now. But what realization I had with Chris Ann, who is my right-hand girl, she now obviously is one of my best friends in the world. But at the time, she was just an admin on my team. And one day she looked up to me and she said, "Do you know what you're doing here?" And I was like, "Well, of course I do." But that's not what she was asking. She asked, like, "Do you know what you're doing for us?" And I was like, no, why don't you tell me? And she's like, you're giving us an identity. And at that moment, I was like, wow, like that was the light bulb of like, holy moly, this team is giving military spouses the ability to have a career that they can move around with. And I was helping them create something for themselves that was outside of the shadow of their spouse, right? And so what happened from there was we tore down a lot of things very strategically. Like I told you, we went from 120 to 80 in a year and a half time period, but it was all on purpose. And we basically stopped and said, like, if it doesn't serve that mission, we're not here for it. We started loving on our people. I got out of the way, honestly. I knew that we would not be in Fayetteville again forever. And so I basically built something that would work no matter where I lived. And we still have the team to this day. So from 2016 to 2023, it's actually worked. And I haven't lived there in 7 or 8 months now, and nothing's imploded. And in fact, there's some really cool things on the horizon for that. So that's kind of the gist of where it's gone from then.
Awesome. So you had gone in, and Chrisanne, your director of operations, has brought to your attention that there wasn't necessarily a why behind it, and then got you refocused into the military and the military spouse community, which then caused you to drive forward significantly faster in a slightly different direction. So at this point, you're currently a MAPS coach, and you've obviously stated your change in trajectory of your focus with military spouses, everything along those lines where you really want to put into that community. Tell me about where MAPS came into the picture for you and why you decided to take that route as well.
Yeah, so MAPS came into the picture for me right around 2017, the end of the year. I believe I became a coach officially the beginning of 2018. And really what happened was I had made a connection with my bold coach back in 2015 when I first got into real estate in the new area. And actually, I think that was probably 2012 that I met him. And I, at that moment, was like, I would love to do this. This is something like, in that moment, I was going through a divorce. I was out of college, realizing I wasn't going to law school. There was a lot to my life at that time. And in that first bold, I got almost nothing out of it professionally because I wasn't in that space. And yet on the personal level, it completely changed my life. And so I tell people now that when they go to bold and they're like, what am I going to get from it? And I say, I don't know. What headspace are you in? Because generally speaking, that's what you end up with taking away from that. So anyway, fast forward, I knew I wanted to be a coach. I thought for a long time I wanted to be a bold coach until I realized what all that entailed. And I was like, yeah, that ain't for me. They are way more energetic than I am. So anyway, I stayed connected with him. He was actually talking to me whenever I was not at Keller Williams. And I asked him, what would it take to be a MAPS coach? And he said, well, honestly, first thing, you got to get back to KW. And so I did that in 2015. And then he made me aware of the production standard and that I had to hit a production standard for 2 years in a row to even be considered. And so those next 2 years were really just hitting that production standard. And I did that. And then magically I get a voicemail. I was walking into a Mexican restaurant. I even remember where I was. And he was like, you did it. I'd like to invite you to apply. And so from that point forward, honestly, it felt like it was just what I should do next that I detoured from. It's turned into something completely different now, but that's how MAPS came into the picture. Was really bold, started all that for me. And then my journey back to where I could apply to do this.
So now you've been a coach for almost 5 years. What's your coaching world look like? Who do you coach? What's your focus? What are you doing there?
So it has gone just the same way my real estate had gone. You know, there wasn't a lot of purpose and focus behind who at the time, because you just don't know that. I don't look at it like a bad thing. You just haven't done it long enough to earn the right to specialize in anything. What it is now is I almost exclusively coach mastery. I still have breakthrough clients as well. But what we're focusing on now is a very specific type of person with a very specific type of problem. And I like it even more if those people with those problems happen to be veterans or spouses of a veteran or an active duty person. So I'm even digging into that more now on navigating most of my schedule to military clientele who want to build big businesses and build massive wealth. And it's funny because that's now what shows up in my roster are people with those problems and people who are in that world. And so currently what I do most every single person I coach is either in the process of building a team or in the middle of that 100 unit mark where they've either hit it before and they're trying to get to the next spot, or they're working towards hitting 100. And the majority of them are in their 30s and 40s, and they are realizing that they can do big things for the first time in their lives. And so that's where I live, because I feel like you're uniquely qualified to help people that you've already worked through their struggles. So that's kind of where we live right now.
So let's fast forward to 2022. You've been a MAPS coach for over 4 years. You've got a successful team in Fayetteville. You've moved back to Tennessee again with your husband and your son, and you've got business going on. You're active, you're busy, full-time coach, full-time business owner, and something starts showing up on the horizon. Tell us about your transition and why KW Military, your next step.
If I take it back a little bit to 2021, I was invited to be on the task force to launch KW Military. And what nobody knew at that time was that I had actually presented that to Mark Brenneman, who's our regional director, about 5 years ago. And we had done a pro forma, we had sent it up, and it really just didn't make it to where it needed to go. No fault of anybody's, just priorities at KW were different at the time, and that's understandable. And what we didn't know was that there were 2 or 3 other people in the country who had been talking about the same thing for a while. And I believe Wendy Harrelson might have been the linchpin to get us all in the same room. And she's like, you guys need to have this conversation. And so we launched a task force to actually start KW Military. And I was one of, I think, 7 or 8 people in the company that had the honor of doing that. And so fast forward back to where we are now. A year ago, it was launched. I was not chosen. And to be honest, I was a little aggravated, but in the military, they teach you, follow the leader. Essentially, the leader was chosen for a reason, and your job is to support that person. And so instead, I became a regional ambassador for the Carolinas region. And we kind of worked from there. Right around July, he stepped out of the role, and my name was thrown in the hat to apply to be the director of KW Military. At that time, honestly, I was kind of shocked because, if I was going back to February, I was kind of mad. And it's okay, because, you can be mad in the same pants you get glad in, as my mom used to tell me. So I just got happy real fast and started working on the mission. And it was a little bit of a, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is possible moment, which I hadn't had one of those in a long time, of like, I'm a small fish in a big pond. And so it was nice to have that again for some perspective. But that's kind of where it went from there. And then, of course, sometime around November, we were having our career vision. Career visioning, you guys, is a long process. And so we had been doing career visioning from August to October. And somewhere along that path, the woman who was career visioning us, she basically said, hey, you and another person on this path have very similar visions. I think you guys should talk, and whatever you decide to do from there is up to you. But he and I spoke for 5 or 10 minutes. Ironically, we clicked, and it almost was succinct from the beginning. And we called her back and said, we withdraw politely. We're going to withdraw individually, and we are only coming into this together. So take us both or don't take us at all. And they took us both. So a month later, we got selected, and here we are.
All right, so here we are, February of 2023. You've been the KW Military co-lead with your partner for just about 3 months. We've just come back from family reunion. It is a big debut. Tell us about why KW Military, why it's so important to you, because you've mentioned a couple of times in this story, you are a military spouse. You've moved multiple times. You discovered your big why for your business in helping military spouses and veterans and family members of those folks. And now you're KW community lead for KW Military. Why KW Military, and what's your goal? What do you guys want to accomplish in there? You've been in it 3 months, and I know you've got big vision. What's it going to look like?
Yeah. So I would like to say that this is something I've realized, but I'm going to give credit to 2 people. Chris Ann's actually the one who made me realize what I was doing all those years ago. And then I coach with you one-on-one, and I was pushing to keep this team, keep the team, build the team, expand the team. And you said, what if that's not the only vehicle? I literally remember where I was when I heard you say that. And it was the first time I had thought about oh my gosh, a traditional real estate sales team isn't the only way to impact the military community. And then you and I and Chris Ann started building something out that honestly, at that time, I wasn't the lead for KW Military. And we were building something that was going to rival what we wanted KW Military to be from the beginning. And we were going to launch that right around the same time we got selected. And we were in the final processes of you and I discussing what it would be. And I got the phone call, and I had to say, all right, guys, we have to pump the brakes, because now that we've built this, which was really cool, because our GPS got approved by Gary and all the other people, Sajak and everybody. And Liz, it was the same GPS that you and I built for this thing that we knew was going to be massive. And so it just was weird because honestly, you put it out into the universe with me of like, what if that's not the only vehicle? And I don't think I would have seen that on my own. So I think it's really important that you have somebody there that can point out your blind spots. Because to me, I was driving like full force towards a wall that I didn't even want to go that direction, but it was just the only option I saw at the time. So kind of, where that all came into play was we wanted to build something that could impact the lives of military, not only in just having camaraderie, but we really wanted to help them build wealth. We wanted to let people know that they could have careers that could move around. We wanted to help them see that they're more than just the military, that they can make six figures, they can start over, and that it's not this daunting thing. Because I don't know about you, but if you even counted, but I think at this point where I sit now, I've moved 9 times since 2013. I mean, that's 10 years, 9 times, and they're different states, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And a lot of them give up because it's freaking hard. It's hard to pick up your life and not only start your business over, but start your friendships over, keep the friendships from afar that you have, keep, your house running and your family sane. And I mean, it's really freaking difficult. So we wanted to build something within the team, but also now at KW Military, where we can be the support system for these people to say, like Ed said, just one more, you're fine. Just one more time, show up one more time. You can do this one more time. Because that one more, the first time I did that, I thought, oh my gosh, this was so hard. And then after it succeeded for a while, I was like, well, that's not that bad. I can do that one more time. And one more time is now turned into 5 more times, but I'm still here and I'm still swinging. So I think the biggest thing we want to do with military is just to let people know they're more than the left, right, left, put on this uniform at this time, and that they can build massive wealth, even when the military has taught them that they can't. So I don't know, that's where it is now. And we do have a huge vision for how we're going to play that out. And, a lot of props to you for my blind spot being exposed at that time, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that conversation. So,
well, then I'll just go ahead and take complete credit. We won't even need to air this.
Go for it. I mean, because I hate when people say like, oh, I don't want to take credit for that. But if we hadn't had that conversation, I wouldn't be here. So I think that, and same thing with Chris-Ann. If Chris-Ann hadn't have said, hey, you look at, I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it's like the ripple effect, right? So that one moment caused all these ripples. And then that second moment rippled again. And so I just look back on those 2 conversations specifically as the thing that I can honestly say I wouldn't be here if it weren't for those 2 conversations. Now, of course, there's a million things I did and rolled up my own sleeves and did my own work in between, but you still have to have those anchor points. And those 2 are anchor points for me in this story.
Well, it's interesting. We look at it and where the coach comes into a relationship. And this isn't necessarily about you and I, but you mentioned I had blind spots, right? And part of a coach's job is to expose those blind spots. It's to go to the places that you won't necessarily go. And that's kind of been pivotal for you on a few steps, right? Your bold coach exposed some things in your personal life that caused you to advance. Your bold coach got you into MAPS coaching. Becoming a MAPS coach caused you to look at perspective differently. And your and I coaching relationship, we've worked together for, I think, 4 years now, with me as your coach, is kind of taken those transitions and helped you see some of those blind spots that's allowed you to pursue something that's very powerful that will impact not just the thousands of people that are currently a member of the KW military community. I think you guys are over 3,000 folks currently strong, 4,000 folks currently strong. Sorry, my bad. It's all of their family members. It's the team members that they have inside of their business, right? If we really look at that ripple effect, what you've been able to do and what you're going to continue to do with your partner community lead, Matthew, is going to impact probably hundreds of thousands of lives over the next few years. That's an impact, right? That's a big why. So if you had anything to tell folks about your KW story or your journey to get to this point, and if we're going to leave them with kind of that mic drop 30-second one last thing, what would it be for you, right? What do you want to leave at the end of this interview today?
So I think this is 2 parts. The first part is you guys have had a lot, and we're not going to go into it, but I've had a lot of tragedy and loss in this whole story that we haven't even talked about. We haven't even scratch the surface of. And the biggest thing I would say is that life is going to show up no matter if it's convenient for you or not. And if you're on a path to whatever you want to do in your life, you can't let the things, I've had huge moments and I've had small moments. I've had death and I've had divorce and I've had children being born and a million moves. No matter what, things are put in your way so that you can show yourself just how strong you are to continue to step over those things and keep going. They're not put there to keep you out or to stop you from rolling. They're there to show you how truly strong you are and how much you can actually do whenever you're destined and determined to do something. The second thing I would say is that it's not sexy, right? Like, this is nothing that, you might see this interview and be like, ooh, la, la, look at this. Behind the scenes to all of these interviews you're going to see, or anyone you ever see on stage, are moments of like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Like, and the people you put in your life are either going to say, yeah, you should probably take a break, or get your together and keep going. And the thing I would tell you is that you need a healthy balance of people who are like, it's okay to take a minute. But then my mom used to call it a 5-second funeral. And when we would complain as a kid, she would walk up and do this. And she's like, have your violin moment and your 5-second funeral and get up and keep moving. Now, not all of us had parents like that. So if you didn't, and that's not a part of you, the biggest thing I would say is find someone who will actually tell you to get over yourself. Because through all the trials and tribulations and the things that I've dealt with, every step of the way, someone was there to say, get over yourself. This is just here to show you how strong you are, or you can do it anyway. It wasn't a lot of cheerleading. It's not a lot of like, yeah, go, go, go. It's like, are you kidding me right now? You're better than that. That's kind of what it actually looks like, not what we think it looks like. So I would say those two things are the biggest things I would want to leave.
Awesome. And they talk about the path to success. We want it to look like this perfect hockey stick of success on there. We want it to look like this perfect hockey stick. And the reason we're laughing is because Deana uses that phrase all the time. And one day I went, what is the hockey stick? What are you talking about? And somehow I just didn't understand she was talking about the exponential growth curve. Didn't get the hockey stick reference.
She's like, we don't have hockey. I'm like,
we don't have hockey in Florida.
What are you talking about?
I'm from Florida. We don't have hockey. It just didn't click. I looked at the exponential growth curve. And to be fair, she didn't know that palm trees come from coconuts. So we are even on this, and we have something forever to make fun of each other on. But I think it's important because you're right. Success doesn't look like it always does. You typically only see the front of success. You don't see all the hard work, the early mornings, the late nights, the bruises, the bumps, the failures, the things that didn't work that we tried, right? The things that hurt in the business, the things we lost money on, the things we lost weeks and months of time on, the wrong paths. And it's always about failing forward and failing often and doing it quickly to get to the next step. So Deana, I want to thank you for your time this morning. I hope everyone got everything they needed out of this interview. And if there's anything in any way people can contact you, how would you like them to do that?
If you guys want to join KW Military or learn more about our community, you can go to joinkwmilitary.com. That website actually has all of the offerings that we have for our entire community. It also on there has links to, if you guys would like to become regional ambassadors for us, you're more than welcome to go there and apply, look at the standards, and kind of check out what we're doing. Specifically, KW Military is a community that was stood up to provide specific types of education, motivation services to people in the military community or those serving the military community. You do not have to be a veteran or a spouse or a military member to join any longer. Anyone can join our community as long as you're dedicated to providing excellent service to the military community itself. So come over there and join us. We'd love to have you, and we thank you guys so much for watching.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. And this is Deana Watson, our KW Military Community Leaders KW Story.